Hey guys, as always, welcome to Applebee's. Those executive orders, and who is in charge these days? Yep, let's talk about that. In this episode, I'm going to share with you some things that I see that's going on right now. I got a few things to posit to y'all and see what y'all think. And then at the end, I'm going to take a turn and come back, and I think what this circles back to is how it all affects your rights to protect yourself. And I think you may be surprised at how we get there, but I think it's a logical pattern or pathway that we're going to follow. I want to hear what y'all have to say. Can't wait to hear what y'all have to say down below in the comment sections. Buckle up, here we go. Hey, this episode is brought to you by the Big Dude Bag. It's a new monthly subscription service for all you outdoor enthusiasts. Every month you get a new dude bag of camping, survival, and outdoor gear arriving directly at your door with a minimum value of $112. Fast shipping, solid customer service, and new gear every month. And when you order your first month, check out what happens when you use code JOHNNYB over at thebigdudebag.com. To each of y'all, thank you for crushing that thumbs up. Deals of the day are down below. Bigfoot shirts are in. And also, tomorrow is episode 2 of a new series that I'm doing called The Buzz. Y'all loved that last week. Thanks for that feedback. That was fun. Heard from a lot of y'all. And then, of course, on Friday is going to be Spicy Friday. A lot of stuff going on. Yesterday, I filmed in Asheville for the network, and that was fun. Had a great time. Did man on the streets with a big microphone and asked questions, and that was fun also. And then I did more conspiracy stuff over on Patreon the other night, and that was wild as well. So the point of all that is there's a lot going on. Appreciate you guys. And I always say that. Thanks for stopping by. I mean that. Thanks for stopping by. Applebee's. Shazam. All right. Executive orders right now. I was going to do a little tally up here and show you how many the child sniffer has signed, but you can't do that because it's going to tally up so fast. But he is at a factor of 10, a factor of 20 ahead of any of the past presidents in recent decades on the total number of executive orders signed in the month of January. And I think that's just scary. Now, all kidding aside, because he's easy to make fun of. I mean, he literally did a press conference talking to children about his leg hairs, and he's done all sorts of stuff. And all that's scary and funny and troubling, a lot of stuff on both sides of, some of it's haha and some of it's legit scary. All that aside, I think we're looking at, I know we are, a man that's in significant cognitive decline. And I think that is unequivocal. I think anybody that has a shred of any sort of training or education in those worlds can look at what we even see publicly. Now, this is what we see publicly, but it's bad. None of it is good. Significant cognitive failures, cognitive decline, repeated examples week after week and really month after month. Even on the campaign trail, he had literal handlers. His wife would sit with him at press conferences and whisper stuff to him and get him out of trouble and remind him what to say. Y'all saw during the debates that maybe he had an eyepiece in and was literally, because people kept saying, why was he eyeballs up there during the last debate? Well, it's because he was reading. He had something, and some of that's theory, but regardless of all that, we're talking about significant cognitive decline. The one the other day really stuck out to me where he just stood up and went over and tried to pick up a notebook and walk off stage and could barely do it. And again, part of that is comedy. The other part, it's not about being an ageist. This is not, oh, Johnny, you're just hating on the... No. Once you establish yourself or your handlers establish you as the leader of the free world, we can have this conversation. We absolutely can have this conversation. We have something going on, and it is scary. And so in the middle of all this, with his wife trying to whisper to him, with him talking about leg hair, the one today was where he said, we now have 600 million coof shots, and that should protect 300 Americans. And it's not, and I want y'all to hear me clearly, if anybody stands for hours and hours and hours a day in front of a microphone, you're gonna get bits and pieces of people misspeaking and people saying the wrong thing or flubbing up their words. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a guy that in the heat, catch this, in the middle of the hottest part of the campaign season, did not take a single question from the press for 90 straight days. That's a problem. And yet now he is signing executive orders as fast can be, just nonstop signing those things. We found out yesterday that $145 million of dark money went into his campaign. That is scary. As soon as the election was I don't know the right word, what word we're using today, but they said he was going in. He created the office of the president-elect. Now, I said all that to say this. President-elect, $145 million of dark money, all of these executive orders, because somebody has to write those. He didn't write the executive orders. We're talking about serious laws, like big, massive documents that are big. It's a machine. I said all that to say this. There is a machine pushing this stuff through, and it ain't him. He is somewhere drinking an Ensure right now with a blanket over his legs, getting ready to take his third nap of the day. And I'm not being funny. I'm saying that's literally where he is. That is where he's at in life. This is not him pushing all this through. My question of the day is, who's in charge? And I'm not asking that snarkily. I'm not asking that to be funny. I'm asking that to say, who is in charge? I had a conversation with somebody the other night, and they asked me, who's in charge? Who's writing all of those executive orders? Did you see the video where he says, I don't know what I'm signing? And somebody in the background says, sign it. Okay, and he signed it and passed it off. And it appears to me, I've turned the volume all the way up, he says, pass this on to the president. Probably something he said for years when he was working for you-know-who. And I want to say this, or I want to ask this question, who is in charge? Now, the easy thing, we always do this. We put a face in front of it. Well, George Soros is doing all. George Soros is not in charge of Antifa. He's not. He may be funding it, but he's not sitting there with, with a cigar saying, hey, here's what we're doing. I want y'all to go over here and y'all to go over there. You take rocks and y'all take bats. Somebody else is running that machine. He might be funding it. We always say there's one person. My question is, who? Is it the DNC? Is it the deep state? Is it the upper echelon that are within Washington? Who is it? And that really is where I'm at. Now, all of that aside, Chuck Schumer said this week that, and this is scary, he wants the child sniffer to declare a climate emergency. And his words were, quote, you can do, quote, can do many, many things under the emergency powers. And that's scary. We're talking about somebody that is operating, if you haven't had civics class in a while, because they stopped teaching civics classes decades ago, the executive branch is not supposed to make laws or enact laws, not at all, yet he is ruling, I think it's the right word, with executive powers. And then you have Schumer saying, hey, let's have an emergency situation for climate. You can do many, many things. And I think that's what's scary for me, is that this whole idea of emergency. How can we get more things under this dude that wakes up from his nap and will sign anything? Who's in charge? Who's doing it? Who's pushing all this stuff through? Who is writing all of that stuff? And then when you have Chuck Schumer saying, hey, we need an emergency on climate, I'm predicting it now. It's been talked about, whispered about for years, but they are 2 steps away from declaring a health emergency on these right here. And that is where we circle back to what I'm terrified of. And I know most people aren't even watching the video at this point. People trickle off at about minute 5 and 6. Most people aren't watching this. But those of y'all that have stuck here, emergency powers, we now have a health crisis, a health emergency because of all the made up statistics. And then he can really do what Chuck Schumer says, make some things happen under emergency powers. To me, that is terrifying. Question of the day is, who do you think is in charge? Here's what I say, regardless of who is in charge, regardless, from my cold, dead hands. Bye.